Plants and trees and other such assets are a great way to, enhance your scene. So I wanted to show you guys how to create a foliage of your own using only free tools for Unreal Engine. Obviously, it can be used in other software as well. This workflow is intended for multiple things, but predominantly we will finish off with Unreal Engine. Now, this video is part of a series on creating foliage for Unreal Engine 5 using a simple, friendly workflow with only free tools. In this first tutorial, we'll start with PlantFactory, a free software that lets you generate plants from its extensive catalog. Once we have our plant, we'll move into Blender to edit its UVs, preparing it for the texturing phase. I'll provide plant textures and share tips on where to find great free options. Next, we'll use Gimp, a free tool to combine and edit our textures. After that, we'll move to Materialize, another free tool to generate detailed texture maps like normal, ambient occlusion, and roughness. I've created an in-depth tutorial on Materialize, so feel free to check that for more guidance. Now finally, we'll bring all the textures into Unreal Engine, where I'll walk you through creating a custom shader using the node-based material editor. But also, we're going to use the texture graph in order to combine multiple materials into one. The project file for this tutorial will be available in the description for you to download and follow along. Now, this is just the beginning. In the future, tutorials will cover adding wind, effects to your foliage, and setting up character interaction. So the foliage reacts dynamically to the players or objects in the world. So, let's just dive in and start creating. In order for you to get the PlantFactory, I recommend you go to this website, and I'm going to link it in the description below. But just when you are on that website, on this particular page, just click the download PlantFactory, and over here you might feel the need to press download now. It's actually over here, so just press download, then just say yes, you accept the software agreement, and once that's done, you will see a link to download the whole thing. Now, obviously, you want to get PlantFactory 2024, I would recommend, the full installer of that, and depending on your platform. Once you do that, you can also get all the plant catalog collections, which I definitely recommend. So if you look back onto the main page, you will see that there's a PlantFactory software and also the catalog. So definitely get these in here so you can have access to extra plants. Once you click the button, the download is pretty straightforward. It's a zip file. Just save it to a folder where you'd like, and then you're able to go. So I'm just going to put it in my download folder, and I'm going to wait for that to download. It's a 1.5 gigabyte space, so it's not that big. In the meantime, just have a look at the catalog itself as well. So when you click the button, any of these, you will actually get a download prompt. So again, you can just download all of them and just press save as, and then we will install them once they're down into the folder. In the PlantFactory folder, just double click the setup and the new setup window will show up. Once that's done, it's pretty straightforward. All you have to do is just press yes, and accept and so on. The idea being that you're just installing a software like any other software, and once that's done, you will be able to use it. Now, install it wherever you might need it. But one very important thing is, once you do finish installing it, you do want to bring in the plant catalog, which installs effectively in the same way as the PlantFactory itself. It will automatically detect what it needs to install. So I'm going to leave that to you. It should be pretty straightforward. Once the software is open, all you really need to do is open a new plant. So we're going to click on the open button in here, and a new page will show up. Now you have a plant catalog, and if you click on it, you'll be able to see various different plants, and you also have an install content. And this is where most of the stuff that you will be getting from the plant catalog will show up. But again, we're going to use something that already comes through pre-made. So for me, I'm going to actually look in through these, through these particular sort of files and just see what sort of plant do I really like and what I would like to make. And for me, I'm just going to check what would be very nice and easy to do for us to understand the process. So over here in the perennials, I found that this lupinus polyphyllus is really cool. So they've got like the HD or LD in the name, so that means high definition or low definition, and some of them are even RT, which means real time. So I'm going to select this. Obviously we want the HD, and I'm going to press yes, and then I'm going to press I'm going to press double click it on it, and then we'll see in here, this is part of an extra package made available freely to all the customers. So effectively you can't open it until you get the plant catalog installed. Even though you're seeing all these plants, it won't allow you to do it. So this is why it's important that you download those plant catalogs that I told you about and install them. Otherwise it won't work. But if you do all of them from that website, you will have access to all the plants within here. But if you can't wait and you want to actually get straight on it, what we're going to do, we're going to click the file and open, and make sure we go to install content, and over in here we can choose one of these plants which are all already installed with the software. So for me, I'm going to choose this particular plant over here, and the interface bugs a little bit for some reason, but now there we go. Now we have it working properly, and this is the plant that we have in question. Okay, so this plant is actually quite detailed, and what I mean by this is, like, if we actually go to display options and choose wireframe, you'll be able to see that all of these leaves, the stem, and the flowers themselves are actually quite nicely detailed in the geometry, but the texture leaves a lot to be desired, because if you go quite close, it's not incredible. So we could actually source some better textures, and again, you can source better textures from real life, or you can source them from the internet, from whatever resources you may have available, even AI in some cases. So I'm going to show you some, how I'm going to set this up. But the first thing we want to do is we want to export this so we can use it in Blender and we can actually edit it, because this is not a tutorial meant for PlantFactory. This is a tutorial for how we bring this plant in Unreal Engine and get it to look as good as it can be. Now, one thing to note in here is the amount of materials that are required for this plant. So we have the 2 different leaves, the flower, and then this one here, which is the stem. So that means that when we export this out of here, it will have at least 4 materials. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to click File and then Export, and export as mesh. And over in here, we will leave everything as is, and I will make sure that I export for Blender instead of choosing Unreal Engine or anything else like that. I'm going to make sure that I do it as Blender. Now you can choose in what folder you're going to do it. So for me, I can do it in the software's sort of page, whatever it wants to do it. I'm actually going to put in this Materialize folder, because we are going to use Materialize later on in order to get this running, and there is a tutorial obviously for that as well. So I'm going to double click the Materialize and just say select folder, and just like that, I'm going to press export. And now the plant is going to be found in that folder, so we can use Blender to bring it in to our, into our project. Now, in a future tutorial, we'll explore another approach to creating plants, this time using Blender's powerful geometry nodes. The workflow will follow a similar structure to what we've done so far, but instead of using PlantFactory, we'll generate the plants directly within Blender. This means you won't need to download or rely on any additional software. It'll all be done in Blender. Now, if you're interested in learning this alternative method, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out. There's plenty more exciting content coming your way, so stay tuned. So here we have another plant that I've done for Blender before, again from the PlantFactory. But we're going to hide this because we don't need it, and we're going to click on File, Import, and we're going to choose FBX. Then I'm actually going to have to go into the folder where I've put it, so it's over in here. This one, and I'm going to press import FBX. So now we have the plant, and it did come in with the textures already sort of added to it as well, which is quite nice. One thing that we will notice straight away is that the blending here is quite bad. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the plant, and we're going to go to our leaves, and we're going to go to the, in here in the material, we want to make sure that we have the proper settings for our, like the way we get our opacity handled. Now you have to make sure that you're on Eevee for this one, and then go back to the material, and it's going to be quite easy because under the settings we will have an alpha blend. We're going to change that to alpha clip, and we're going to select the flowers themselves as well, change that over to alpha clip, and then we're going to select this leaf here as well, the final one, and again it's going to be an alpha clip. Now I am seeing in here is 4 materials, which is quite good, and the plant now looks as it should. Now again, you're looking at this and you're thinking, well, there's pretty decent detail there, and that's right, it is, but we can do better if we would like. Now you can notice over here the textures that I've got on this left side are for my previous other plant. We're going to make a new texture for this, and we're going to find our resources either from online or from real life sources and so on, but it really is depending on what you'd like to achieve. One great way to gather resources for your project is by using your own backyard or anywhere nearby as inspiration. With just your phone, you can capture high-quality photos or videos of plants, leaves, flowers, or anything that catches your eye. These images can serve as fantastic references or even as direct assets for your project. For example, you can take close-up shots of leaves and flowers, ensuring good lighting and sharp details. Then, using software like Photoshop or Gimp, you can place these photos on a blank canvas, align them properly, and even map them to your UVs. This technique is perfect for creating realistic textures for your models. And here's where the magic of free tools like Materialize comes in. Once you have your images ready, Materialize can help you generate complex maps like normal maps or height maps, which add depth and realism to your materials. It's a simple yet powerful way to turn basic photos into fully usable assets. So whether it's your garden, a park, or even a plant shop, inspiration and resources are all around you, just waiting to be captured. For me, I'm going to get some resources to replace these leaves and then these flowers here as well. Now, it's important that you actually know the name. So luckily, this already tells us this is Hydrangea paniculata. So this is the plant, and we can probably find some resources online for this, or as I said, use an AI to generate some of these leaves. Apart from finding the resources yourself, you can actually have a look online, and for example, by typing in the name of the plant plus flower leaf, we are able to see in here that we can get some flowers. We can probably get some of these images if we find a higher quality of them, maybe on Google, on Bing or whatever. And then basically what we want to do is bring this into Photoshop or Bing or something like that, and then take it out and use it for ourselves. I would definitely be careful on copyrighted material and so on. And then you can also type in leaf, and this one in here, for example, this particular leaf would be very high quality that we could use, or we could do something like this as well. So you know what I mean, so you can find resources on Google or other websites where they might have leaves and so on for you to use. But you can also go for things like Firefly. So for me in this particular case, I've got Adobe Firefly, and in here I can type in what I need. So for example, I can type in the plant's name, and with some tweaks in here, I am able to, like tell it what I want. So I want the single leaf, and then I want black background, for example. Let me just type that properly. And then you have some options in here, like for example, generating a square, a photo. We're also going to be looking at color and tone. We'll leave it to none, but we do want lighting to be a studio light. And for example, we want the camera angle maybe to be something like a surface detail, or maybe close up or shot from above. And we can also have a look at things like adding other tags. So it does have in here stuff like photorealism and things like that. We just have to have a look to see what type of mode you want. You can use visual intensity and style and so on. But there's loads of stuff in here that you can choose. So I'm just going to click on generate for now, just so we can see what we're getting. In theory, it should give us what we need. So it's, created a very stylized leaf. So in that particular, for that sort of way, I'm going to tone down the visual intensity and the strength, just because I want to see what it shows up. And now it's a bit better, but still not the way I would like it. Again, I can have a look and see if there's further things for me to tune in here. So let me just have a look very quickly, because we could look at all types of effects, and we can have a look and see if we can find something like photorealism, for example, or something like that. You know what I mean? Like just to bring it further to what we're looking for. Now it's got a lot of effects that you can choose from. So this is by no means, it's gonna take a bit of time for you to find out the right combination. So I could type in here ultra realistic, and that should give us some a better result, maybe, or maybe not. At the end of the day, it's really up to the prompt and the prompt gods as well as we do it. This is the problem with it. Or as I said, you could just keep hunting online for it. We've got so far a flower leaf, a green leaf for the plant, and also we have a stem. Now what we want to do, we want to put all these three into one sort of texture, and because this is our working folder now, I'm also going to, be saving it in here once I have the texture that I want. So I'm not going to do anything in Blender, but instead we are going to look for Gimp, which is a free software which allows you to photo manipulate, much like what you can do in Photoshop. Now in Gimp, we can press the file, in here and just say new. Now, bear in mind, you can get Gimp for free from the internet, so you don't really need my help on that one, I don't think. Right, so we're just going to use a 4096 by 4096 image. We're just going to press OK. And it says you are trying to create an image with a size of 156 megabytes. Again, doesn't really matter right now. We're just trying to create a 4K image for us to bring our textures into. Now we have them over here, right? And the idea would be that you can just sort of like drop them in as new layers. So we're going to drop that one there. We're going to drop the leaf, and also we're going to drop the stem, right? And that's pretty straightforward. Now what we're going to do is we can actually move these around. So if we select them, we can just sort of like move them each into their own little pockets, right? So we're going to put them maybe something like that, and the flower will go down here. Obviously this leaves us another space for something else if we would like to generate another one. Now the background here, I would like if this background was actually black as well. So everything now is black, which makes things a lot more simpler. Now again, we're going to move these a little bit in here like that, just so they're not actually hitting the edges. I don't want them to hit the edges. The textures are quite large, and we're going to keep them that way for you know, for now, right? But the idea would be that this is a 2D image, right? And this is where the leaf is, this is where the flower is, this is where the stem is. So our meshes are going to have to effectively touch, well, not touch, but our polygons are going to have to be on top of these particularly elements for us to be able to see it. So we're not going to make any new modifications here. We are just going to export this as is so that we can actually play around in Blender. We're going to go to File, and then it has in here some options. I believe if you press Export As, it will allow you to export it to wherever you'd like. And in our particular case, we want to bring it over into that downloads folder that I have, into Materialize in here. Now it's going to, you know, like say in here, like what type of file size you want to export it as, and right now it says a PNG, so that's fine. We're just going to call it a plant texture PNG, and gonna click on the export button. This is going to bring up some new, you know, stuff in here. We're just going to press export. We're not going to be looking at anything else. In terms of the compression level, I believe this number is higher. It will be more, it will be better looking, but if you decrease it, it will compress the image more. We'll have to see that in just a little bit when we export. Once that's done, we can go back into Blender in here, and we do want to bring our texture over. So over into here, we're going to actually you know, close this so we're no longer seeing any texture, but we are going to select our plant over. We're going to go into the shade editor, and I'm going to press N on the keyboard to close that. And I'm going to select the leaf in here, leaf 01. I am going to delete the color map. I'm going to press the X button to remove it, and I'm going to press on the open button over here. So now I can go back into that Materialize folder, and I'm going to double click the plant texture, right? So open image, and this will open the new plant texture image, and you can see it somewhere around here on the leaves as well. Now we're going to be deleting these two other maps in here. We don't need them, but what we're going to need is this particular texture, because I want to have a play a little bit with it. I'm going to go back into the UV editor in here, and I'm going to edit the plant. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this material, LF01, and I'm going to press the select button. So this just selects all the meshes that are using that material, makes things a lot easier, because we do want to hide the rest of it. So I'm going to press Ctrl I on the keyboard and H to hide everything, and now we're only having this. If you want to bring everything back, just press Alt H on the keyboard and we'll bring back everything else. If not, just press H again to hide it. Now we do want to see these particular meshes on top of that new texture. So we are going to go up here and click on it, and then we can scroll down, and we're going to select plant texture, which is the name that we gave to this before. Now we can select all of these polygons like that. I have this button pressed over here. If you don't have it, just press it so you can see the selection over in the viewport and the UV. And then we can move these away from the texture, maybe somewhere around there, right? And now when we look, I can press this button over here so we no longer see the wireframe. And now we can kind of see what the leaves are showing us. So over in here, if we scale this down and bring it over on top of the leaf like that, we want to kind of eyeball it. So I'm just going to try and predict where they should be, right? Maybe something like that. Maybe we can actually, you know, like decrease the width, maybe something like that. So it centralizes a bit more onto the leaf and it looks a lot better. Okay, so that's great. Okay. Now, if we actually switch over, you know, if we press Alt H in here to bring back our stem, we can see that it's actually quite nice. It actually hits quite nice. Okay, so that's great. Now we want to select the other leaves. So we're going to select these in here and press select. Now you can see, actually, sorry, let me just make sure that I see the wireframe again. If I select these leaves and press select, I'm able to now move these. And again, Control I, Alt H to H to hide everything. And I'm going to select all of these by pressing A on the keyboard, and I can bring them in here as well. Now, one problem that we have is that we don't know what we did to the previous one. How do we center this the same one as the other leaves? So what we can do is Alt H and then select these leaves from the two materials, and Control I and H to hide everything. Now we are just going to select only these, right? These leaves, and we're going to put them down here. So we're trying to, again, kind of eyeball this until we kind of get the shape that we want. Make sure that it kind of fits the same what we did before, which is quite nice because it's very easy. S and X on the keyboard just to scale on this axis, and just centralize a little bit in there like that, and we now should be able to see it. Now, if you're not able to see it, if we press Tab and go back to Object, you'll notice that nothing really happened. That's because we didn't actually add this texture to that material. So we have to go back into the shader editor, and over in here, delete the texture maps for the second material. And we can go to the first one. We can actually right-click and press Copy. Go to the second one and press Paste. Paste, and then we can copy this in like that, and now we have it showing up. Okay, but now we have these black bars and we can't really see anything, so we effectively need an alpha map. Now we can use this as an alpha like that, but obviously this doesn't really work. And one thing that you can do is just actually not the alpha, you can use the color in here and put it into the alpha. And this in theory should work, but not very well. So we can actually even look at doing like an invert color. So you could do something like that, but it won't really work because, again, it's not allowing you to kind of see, right? It doesn't work really well. We do need an alpha map to export. So that's where Gimp comes back into play. So we go back into Gimp, and what we want to do is we want to have these shapes be white. And then that means that that's where we're going to display information, and wherever it's black, basically to display no information. So what we're going to do, we're going to go on to select by color, and then we're going to click on the black in here. And since we're editing only this particular layer, we can now go over to the bucket tool, and then we can actually just put the sort of like the white color, but we don't want to put it there. We want to put it over onto this mesh. So if we go back to select, we do have a invert for Control I, and then you can just paint over in here. Now, one of the problems is there that the bucket is trying to like do it per pixel, like it's not really working in the way that we would like. So we can actually just go to a brush, a rather large brush, and maybe a bit bigger. The brush size is quite slow actually, so we're just gonna like that. And what we're doing now, we're just creating a mask over in here. So that's done. Now we can go to another layer, which is this one, and we're gonna say select by color. Oh, sorry about that. Let me just undo. So again, with this selected, we do want to make sure that we're on the selection thing in here. So select by color. We are going to click on the black background, and then we're going to say select invert, and we're going to go back to the brush, and now we can paint this white in here, which is going to again create a new mask. Now Control A to deselect. Sometimes you will get these spots over here, so you do want to like paint those into black, because if they're white, then they're going to show up on your final result. So again, just delete those like that. Again, I'll leave it to you for refinement if you need to. Okay, now we're going to do the last layer, which is the same thing as what we did before. This is going to work quite well as our alpha map, so we're going to go into File, Export. Now, bear in mind that we are going to combine all of these together into one texture at some point. So I'm going to select Plant Texture, but this time I'm going to call it Plant Texture Alpha, so we know that that's the alpha. I'm going to click on the Export button, I'm going to click on OK, and this should be fine now for exporting. Now that's it for the first part of the tutorial. We've now finished the section where we use Gimp to put together our textures. In the next part, we'll be taking those textures into Materialize to generate our maps. And then we'll move into Unreal Engine to set everything up in the texture graph and create a custom shader. So stay tuned.